Hello everyone! Welcome back to the channel, The Bold and Beautiful Always, and today we've got something really exciting for you. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Let's jump right in. It was supposed to be the most beautiful day of Taylor Hayes' life, a wedding she had waited decades for, full of longing, promises, and a vision of a future she believed was finally within her grasp. But fate, as always in the tangled, ever-winding saga of the bold and the beautiful, had other plans, crueler and more complicated than any she could have anticipated, because just as the harpist began to play, and the rose petals fluttered from above like soft whispers of hope, Ridge Forrester stood at the altar with a haunted expression behind his steel blue eyes, holding the ring in trembling fingers, glancing around the grand Forrester estate chapel where friends and family were gathering in anticipation, only to suddenly glance at his phone. One last message from Brooke Logan, a simple 5-word text that changed everything: "Meet me in Rome now." And in that moment, a whirlwind of memories surged through his mind, from the beach kisses in Malibu, to the infamous fountain in Italy where they declared their love as if it was a sacred vow written in the stars. And though he tried to fight the emotion tightening around his chest like a vice, Ridge realized, with horrifying clarity, that the heart wants what it wants, and his heart, his soul, his very essence would never be complete without Brooke, no matter how stable, consistent, and emotionally nourishing Taylor had been in his life. So while Steffi and Thomas exchanged uneasy glances and Eric rose from his seat sensing the tension thickening in the air like a fog rolling over a cliffside, Ridge's voice cracked as he muttered, "I can't do this," before louder, clearer, with the echo of heartbreak ringing through the room, he turned to Taylor, whose radiant smile instantly faded like sunlight slipping behind a storm cloud, and he said, "I can't marry you, Taylor. I'm so sorry," and the collective gasp that followed was like a sonic wave crashing through the crowd, with Taylor's eyes widening, brimming with disbelief, her hands reaching out as if she could physically stop time, halt this nightmare unraveling before her, whispering, "No, Ridge, please, please, don't do this, not again," her voice trembling, filled with anguish, years of heartbreak echoing in each syllable, as she moved toward him, clinging to hope like a drowning woman to driftwood, her tears cascading down her cheeks while Ridge backed away slowly, guilt and sorrow written across his face, saying softly, "I thought I could give you what you deserve. I wanted to be that man, but I'd be lying to both of us," and Taylor's knees buckled but Steffi caught her, rage simmering in her eyes, fury for her mother's humiliation, her pain, demanding to know if this had something to do with Brooke, and of course it did, because even now Ridge was dialing the Forrester jet, making arrangements to fly to Rome, to chase the woman who had haunted him for decades. The woman who had texted not out of manipulation but out of desperation, because earlier that day, Brooke had learned from Donna that Ridge was getting married to Taylor that very afternoon, and with tears in her eyes in Rome behind her, she had walked to that same fountain where she and Ridge once promised forever, and sent the message with trembling fingers, not expecting him to come, not daring to hope, but Ridge did come, because as he flew across the Atlantic, seated in solitude, gazing out the window as the stars blinked above the clouds like silent witnesses to this painful journey, he remembered the way Brooke had always looked at him, like he was her whole world, her destiny, and he knew this wasn't just nostalgia, wasn't some obsessive cycle of longing, it was love, pure and flawed and messy and true. And as Taylor sat alone in her wedding gown, sobbing into her veil, her heart shattered into a million pieces, whispering over and over again, why wasn't I enough? The question not just aimed at Ridge but at the universe, at herself. At every moment she believed she had finally won the war of the heart, only to be defeated by the ghost of Brooke and Ridge's past. And while Steffi raged and threatened to never forgive her father for doing this to her mother again, and Thomas stormed out with clenched fists, disgusted that all the healing and promises and therapy meant nothing, Ridge landed in Rome, emerging from the jet into the golden glow of the Italian morning, searching the winding cobblestone streets for a glimpse of Brooke, who stood silently beside the ancient fountain, as if she had been waiting her entire life for this moment. And when their eyes met, all the pain, all the years, all the betrayals melted into the air like mist on the Tiber, and Brooke's voice cracked as she whispered, "You came," and Ridge, overcome with emotion, took her in his arms and said, "I'll always come to you." And back in Los Angeles, Taylor ripped off her wedding gown, the fabric tearing like her heart, collapsing on her bedroom floor as flashes of every stolen kiss, every broken promise, every lie Ridge had told flickered through her mind like a cruel film reel, and though she tried to scream, to curse his name, only silence came, a quiet so profound it felt like the death of her hope itself, while at Forrester Creations, the fallout rippled as Eric demanded answers. As Hope tried to comfort Brooke over the phone only to be stunned when her mother revealed that Ridge had canceled the wedding and was with her now, and as the press caught wind of the scandal, headlines exploded across tabloids and fashion blogs. Ridge Forrester abandons bride at altar to chase love in Rome, turning the most private heartbreak into public spectacle, with Taylor now not just jilted but humiliated. And as days passed, Ridge and Brooke wandered hand in hand through the narrow alleys of Rome, trying to find themselves in the ruins and relics of the past, whispering dreams and regrets and making promises not to repeat their mistakes, while Taylor locked herself away, refusing visitors, lost in a whirlwind of questions, wondering if anything was ever real, or if she had merely been a placeholder, a safe harbor for Ridge to retreat to when the storms of his passion for Brooke grew too strong, and the truth, as painful as it was, echoed in every silence between them, because Ridge never truly stopped loving Brooke, not for a moment, not even when he held Taylor's hand, not even when he kissed her, not even as he proposed, because his soul was entangled with Brooke's like ivy on stone, tangled and eternal, no matter how many times it had been torn down. And now, as Ridge and Brooke stood on a balcony overlooking the Roman skyline, he turned to her, brushing her hair behind her ear, and whispered the words Taylor had waited her whole life to hear but never would, "You are my home." And as Brooke closed her eyes and kissed him, the wind carried the soft echo of Taylor's sobs back in Los Angeles, the sound of a woman whose heart had been shattered once again by a man she thought was finally hers, and who now would have to find the strength to rise from the ashes, even as the world watched, even as her soul cried out for something, anything, to make it stop hurting. At Bill's place, Steffi and Hope tell Liam that his tumor is gone. Finn says he just looked at the scans himself. He'll be able to watch his little girls grow up. Will and Katie share big news. Brooke is concerned about the dissemination of the Italy press release at Forrester. Ridge assures her they can still cancel if they have to because of Liam. Just then, Katie and Will burst in with incredible news. They assert that Liam underwent successful experimental brain surgery. He's cured. They all exclaim with happiness. Will is thrilled about having more time with his older brother. Taylor decides to get in touch with the hospital to see if she can find out more. They have people to thank, so Ridge encourages her to do so. Will and Ridge get into it about Bill. Will says he's struggling with guilt. Ridge won't forgive him anytime soon for what he did. He's the reason Luna was out of prison. He put my daughter at risk. Will believes that his efforts to save Liam are going well. Brooke inquires about Taylor to see if she has heard from the hospital. All she knows is that Grace signed off on Liam's discharge. They all go over Liam being strong and how nothing is more precious to him than his kids. Taylor still has questions, but what matters most is that he's going to live. Ivy misses Liam. Electra asks Ivy if she's okay in the design office because she knows the news about Liam has been hard on her. Ivy can't get over the unfairness of it all. B&B Ivy Electra they talk about how Ivy and Liam used to be close. He still means a lot to her, according to Electra. He was there when she was at her lowest point, Ivy says. She has realized how much she has missed him now that he is about to die. Ivy tells Electra that Liam's still the best boyfriend she's ever had. She goes through his list of qualities and concludes that he is the complete package. The fact that Electra and Will did not inherit those characteristics makes her giggle. Ivy says, luckily, none of Bill's sons are like him. She says that she and Liam had a moment at Il Giardino before he got sick, and she says that one of the main reasons she came back to Los Angeles was because of him. She must now devise a means of eternal goodbye. Ivy Electra B&B. Electra didn't realize Ivy had such deep feelings for Liam. Ivy complains that she thought she had all the time in the world. She regrets not being able to be a friend who was there for him. I wasn't aware, Electra assures her there's still time. Ivy is unable to even contemplate his demise. He's just so young. Electra says it's weighing heavily on Will too. No one is ready to say goodbye. Bridget questions her colleague. At the hospital, Grace is typing on her lap when her phone dings. She appears stressed as she reads a message of profound gratitude from Bill. She is approached by Bridget, who wants to discuss Liam Spencer. She inquires about her approval of Liam's discharge so quickly. Grace says she doesn't have time for this discussion, so Bridget keeps questioning her decision. She watches Bridget until she leaves when her phone rings. She says, returning to the phone call, "I was just about to call you." A request is made by Liam. Bill tells Liam at Bill's house that he just told Will and Wyatt the wonderful news. Liam marvels, "It's really gone?" They all promise him that it is. He's going to grow old with them and be with them for a very long time. Liam weeps. Hope, Liam, Steffi, Bill, Finn, B&B. When Steffi and Hope inquire about his mood, Liam responds that he is worn out. He wants to see his girls, but they want him to rest. Hope suggests calling the nanny to request that she bring them over. Finn inquires about Bill's recent interactions with Dr. Buckingham. Bill responds only with a text message. Finn marvels that this is a mind-blowing case. Bill concurs, calling it a miracle. Finn frowns. Bill, Finn, B&B. At the hospital, Bridget paces and thinks about Grace telling her and Finn that the mass in Liam's brain was inoperable. She then says in a flash to Finn that releasing Liam so quickly was very strange and not standard procedure. Bridget, B&B. In Grace's office, she reads a text showing the bank wire from Bill Spencer has been processed. She agonizes. Kelly and Beth are reunited with Liam. At Bill's place, Bill tells Hope and Steffi that when Grace came to him with the experimental procedure, he just had to go for it. Hope says they're grateful. Bill declares that he would do anything for his son. He sits by Liam's bedside and expresses his gratitude for the tumor's removal. He apologizes for Luna's part, but he will never forgive himself for putting him in danger. Liam cracks, "Thanks for the surgery." Steffi and Hope are sure he's keen to see Kelly and Beth. They will ensure that they are aware that he will be fine. Finn enters with the girls and Steffi and Hope explain that their dad was at the hospital, but everything is going to be okay and there's nothing to worry about. The girls file around the bedside and ask if he's all right. Now that they're there, Liam says he's the best person ever. He shows off his tubes and hat. "Do you think it's cool?" B&B, Beth, Liam, Kelly. The girls get into bed with Liam and Steffi tells them he's a hero. Hope knows it may be confusing to see him like this. Finn describes the machines and declares that he is healing very well. They have so much to look forward to. Steffi and Hope let their daughters know how much Liam loves them. There will be numerous additional father-daughter dances. The girls and Liam express their love. "Best money I ever spent," Bill murmurs. In her office, Grace looks at the $1 million deposit pending, transfers it into her account, and flashes through Liam's medical journey. Getting up and pacing, she begins to hyperventilate. At Bill's grand estate, where the mood had shifted from grim apprehension to tentative hope, a radiant Steffi and a tearful Hope stood beside Liam's bed, the room filled with the low hum of medical machinery and the faint scent of antiseptic clinging to his skin, and as Liam blinked his eyes open, still weary but somehow lighter, they gave him the news that would change his life forever. His tumor was gone, and the nightmare they'd all endured could now begin to dissolve into memory. Finn, standing a few feet away with the authority of both doctor and family, confirmed it with the steadiness of a man who had just reread the scans himself and couldn't believe what he was seeing. No trace, no shadows, nothing but clean results and a promise of a future that had seemed impossible mere days before. And as Liam tried to absorb the miracle with tears tracking down his pale cheeks, murmuring that he might actually get to watch his girls grow up after all, Steffi squeezed his hand with Such intensity it bordered on desperation, and Hope leaned in with soft-spoken reassurances, both women consumed with the idea that this man they both loved in different ways had been plucked from the edge of death and given a second chance, a chance that neither of them knew how to process fully, especially as questions still lingered in their minds and Finn's eyes betrayed a storm of skepticism he had yet to voice. Meanwhile, across town at Forrester Creations, Brooke paced in front of the long conference table as the press release about the Italy showcase loomed in her mind like a threat to the joy they were all too afraid to fully feel, worrying about optics and timing and the legacy of the brand, but Rich stood beside her with his usual measured confidence, assuring her they could cancel everything if need be. Nothing was more important than Liam's recovery, but before either could decide anything, the doors flew open and in walked Katie and Will, beaming with uncontained joy. As Will shouted that Liam had undergone an experimental brain surgery and was now officially cured, sending a wave of gasps and celebratory exclamations through the room as even Brooke's shoulders relaxed for the first time in days, and though Ridge's eyes softened for Liam, they narrowed with tension when Will, proud and hopeful, mentioned that he'd be able to spend more time with his older brother, a sentiment that should have been simple and sweet but instead set off a chain reaction of buried resentment, with Ridge suddenly bringing up Bill's role in Luna's release, accusing Will's father of recklessness and endangering his daughter's life, saying, "He put my daughter in danger," his voice laced with unresolved fury that clashed hard against the otherwise joyous mood, and though Will countered with measured guilt, insisting he was trying to make up for it and had at least played a role in saving Liam, Ridge wasn't ready to forgive and wasn't about to let this feel-good moment absolve anyone of their sins, especially not when he knew the full consequences of Bill's desperation, while Taylor, sensing the friction rising and always the mediator, decided to contact the hospital to confirm Grace Buckingham's role in the discharge, wondering aloud how a procedure so impossible became so real so quickly, and though everyone was grateful, she couldn't quiet the voice in her head asking if it had all been too good to be true, a sentiment shared by more than a few people as Grace's name came up again and again. Meanwhile, in the design office, Ivy sat with a distracted, almost haunted expression as she stared at her untouched sketchbook, her pencil idle in her hand, and Electra, concerned but not overbearing, gently asked if she was okay, noting that the news about Liam had clearly shaken her, and Ivy, never one to hide her emotions when they bubbled to the surface, confessed that she couldn't stop thinking about him and the way life had stolen time they never got to share, recalling how he was there for her when her life was unraveling, how they'd had something real once, and even though it had faded, it had never fully disappeared from her heart, especially now, when his mortality had hung in the balance and made everything feel sharper, more precious, more painfully unfinished, and Electra, surprised by the depth of Ivy's emotion, pressed gently, and Ivy, eyes misty, admitted that Liam was still the best boyfriend she'd ever had, ticking off the qualities she admired, his compassion, his integrity, his sense of humor, and even joked bitterly that none of those traits came from Bill, to which Electra laughed nervously, agreeing that Bill's sons were lucky to have sidestepped their father's darkness, though Ivy's smile faded as she revealed that Liam had been one of the main reasons she returned to LA, and now she had to face the agonizing possibility of saying goodbye forever. A task she didn't know how to begin. At the hospital, Grace sat in her office staring at her laptop screen, her expression tight and unreadable as a message popped up from Bill, just a simple thank you, but its weight nearly crushed her, because she knew what it was really thanking her for, and when Bridget knocked on her door moments later, wanting answers about the discharge and why Liam had been released so quickly after what had been deemed an inoperable diagnosis, Grace tried to brush her off, citing confidentiality and time constraints, but Bridget, sharp, experienced, and not easily dismissed, kept pressing until Grace's phone rang, providing her an exit as she shot Bridget a warning glance and turned away, muttering into the receiver, "I was just about to call you," her voice trembling slightly. Back at Bill's estate, Bill himself was in full patriarch mode, calling Will and Wyatt to tell them the good news, his heart full even as guilt gnawed at the corners of his joy, and Liam, still pale but starting to smile, asked again if it was really gone. The disbelief so raw it broke everyone's hearts a little, and when Steffi and Hope confirmed it with tears of relief, Liam cried again, this time not in fear but in gratitude, and asked to see his daughters, Kelly and Beth, the lights of his life, refusing to rest until he could hold them and show them that he was still there, still fighting, still their father. Hope called the nanny immediately, and while they waited, Finn took Bill aside, asking if there had been any more contact with Dr. Buckingham, and when Bill said no, just a brief text, Finn's brow furrowed deeper, the entire situation tugging at his medical instincts in a way that refused to be ignored, especially as Bridget's earlier concerns echoed in his mind, and meanwhile at the hospital, Bridget paced in a quiet corridor, replaying every conversation with Grace, every warning sign, every moment of doubt, and then flashing back to Finn's own uncertainty when Grace had pushed for discharge despite protocol. His voice grave as he'd said it wasn't standard and something felt off, and in Grace's office, the surgeon-turned enigma sat back in her chair, eyes wide with dread as she opened her banking app and saw the wire from Bill Spencer had officially processed, $1 million transferred in full, and the weight of that transaction hung in the air like a noose as she thought back over every step she'd taken, from the forged reports to the staged consultations, to the moment she told Liam he had only weeks to live, and how she'd manipulated everyone into believing she alone had the solution, and now, with the money sitting in her account,